Aha.
Nani, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's
Thanks for
so good.
having me, Nat.
Oh, of course. Thank you for being here and sharing your experiences about the program.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's start with an introduction. Please share a little bit about who you are and where you're at in terms of your family building journey.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm Nani. I have a broad range of children at the moment. My firstborn is 21, and then my partner and I have sort of a Brady Bunch going on. We have his 10-year-old with us as well. We have a 3-year-old in common, and now we are expecting another one in January. So yeah, I'm deep in the three-nager moments, which I think is what brought me seeking assistance from experts and other parents.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And you are such a joy in the program. We all learned so much from you and your experience. Yeah. Thank you. So, with that said, at the time of joining the program, what did you want to change when it comes to your parenting or reparenting your inner child?
Yeah, gotcha. I think this might be slightly to the left of the topic, but
Mm,
I think for me it was the fact that you had the words decolonized, anti-capitalist
yeah.
in the program materials.
Mm,
That's something that I find really just shapes a lot of my attitudes these days. And I do find that there is so much kind of capitalist white supremacy in how we raise our children to fit into the world. So um, yeah, I was really drawn to your program because I felt like it was a place that I could grow and learn theories and techniques and find a bond with other people who shared my values, because so
mm,
much of the time sometimes these educational spaces can be really affected by toxic positivity and unrealistic expectations. And I
mm.
really honed in on, like, this is a group that I can be vulnerable with, and I feel like I won't be wasting my time with a lot of fluff. So
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
I had never seen anything offered like that before.
Wow, thank you, Nani. So, decolonized and anti capitalistic parenting.
Yeah,
Drawn you
yeah.
in. Yeah. And before joining the program, what kept perhaps getting in your way of addressing those things?
It's always difficult in partnership when you have different backgrounds and sometimes aren't always on the same page about how to come at problems in parenting.
Mm,
So I feel like sometimes with my approach being the more radical or less proven or what have you, that I needed support, that that was a path that I could stay on, and that there was a way to get important lessons for my children. There was a foundation that I could build there that wasn't just pie in the sky, me trying to be right or what have you. So yeah, uh,
mhm.
again, with this, the community building.
Yep. That's beautiful, Nani. Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, with that roadblock happening, I'm looking at my question here to stay on track.
Sorry.
Hmm. And what would it mean for you to parent in a way that's anti-capitalist and decolonized?
I think that it really means we have to adjust our milestones of success, the things that we expect from our children. I feel like it would look like parenting in a more holistic. The term individual can be kind of loaded, culturally speaking. Individualism does definitely affect us negatively, but being able to take my children out of the greater context of what everyone's meant to do and be,
Mm,
and just parent them based on their needs,
right.
where they're at, being able to meet them where they're at and get what they need for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but also
Individualism. Yep.
sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
But then also, making sure to ground them in the context of like, sure, this is what you need and what you're going through, but how are you affecting others and the grand scheme of things? Because
Mm,
I think that's really important too.
yeah,
Maybe a lot of American children don't really get firmly grounded in that, like, sure, this is what you want, but is that fair? Or just because you can, should you?
right, right, right. Yeah, so you are grounding your parenting in your integrity and value. And
Yeah, hoping
yeah,
to. And,
right.
and again, that's just not something that I've really seen. I've seen a lot of materials on, respectful parenting and gentle parenting, and all of that is really great. But I had just never seen a program that tied that into my politics. And
Ah,
I think that's what's so special about your work.
oh, thank you, Nani. Because I feel like parenting or social justice work, it's kind of love in action. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You
I
just,
mean, it's really sort of world building, isn't it?
yes.
We're just laying those bricks, hoping they
Mhm.
will build something better.
Right. And it's such an honor for me to keep learning and being on this journey with you through the program. And through the program, Nani, did you hesitate or did you have any reluctance before clicking that join the program button?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think probably like a lot of us, I suffer from extensive imposter syndrome and just feeling sort of overwhelmed in terms of parenting or the world in general. I tend to feel like everyone else is going to be ahead of me and I haven't really done all of my homework. I love how much you talked about like our body responses and our fight, flight, freeze, and people please. I
Mhm.
feel like I've spent a real significant chunk of time in freeze,
Yeah.
and so I felt like I was going to arrive substantially behind the class and I didn't want to
Mm.
drag everybody down or, you know, yeah. And they really, they were a very sharp group. They were a very educated group. And I definitely did have moments of feeling like there was a lot I had left to learn, but the group was so welcoming. I was
Yeah.
really, really, really glad I showed up and
Oh,
really proud of myself for having taken that step and completed it.
yes, Nani. And you had so much to contribute to the group too with your life experiences and your reflection.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And with reflection and body-based practice, right? Those are kind of our framework where we
Mhm.
do in, out, and through, which is self-reflection, storytelling, and body-based practice. Can you say a little bit more about your experiences with these three components?
Yeah, well, I think immediately the body-based practices leap to mind. I found myself employing those in
Mm.
stressful moments, pretty much from the moment that we covered them. I was, working my way through tantrums or uh, domestic strife with my supermodel poses, and really trying to work on my own regulation to get me through tough days. And already been introducing Remy to some of these ideas. He's just so busy. I feel like we haven't really found that rhythm yet, but I'm still trying
Mm.
to introduce these ideas of
Yes.
here's things that you can do. It's such a
Mm.
tough balance between like not wanting to teach him to squash feelings. It's like at what point do you say, all right, we've done the big mad. Now let's try to get back on track. Because he's someone who will stay in the big performative mad for a long time. But
Mm, Remy.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
he's
Mm,
so much, but he's so fascinating. I'm very grateful
right.
for him.
Yeah. So you
But
find the body-based practices to help you stay
like
grounded and regulated through your parenting
that's
practice.
been the most immediate takeaway for me.
Mm.
I have noticed through the storytelling aspect, a lot of the writing exercises that we did, I found myself just coming back to the same narrative about my family of origin and realizing like, I have this incredibly one-dimensional understanding of my ancestors, and that feels like a very white-bodied thing, you know.
Mm,
I don't know that much. I know the snippets that they've told me about my grandparents and their personalities, but like even my parents' history and their marriage,
mm,
I just kept coming back to like this one core piece that I know. And yeah, so I am eager to get deeper into that and to
right.
learn more about what their experiences were like parenting me, although there's a whole ball of shame and embarrassment there that I don't want to
Mm,
tackle, but
it's hard, isn't it?
it is
Painful.
hard to integrate all of that stuff instead of just do the like extract what works and leave everything else behind and just keep moving forward without looking back. So
Right.
yeah.
Wow. And how might that shape your daily parenting if you
Mm.
know the stories of your ancestors a little bit better and kind of be the author and editor of your own family ongoing stories?
Right. I mean, well, I think it is so important to have history and to learn from history. And I think we can kind of see that in action now, where
Mm,
the culture may be sort of repeating some things that we've tried and don't really need to do over again. So I would like to be able to benefit more from things that have happened in my family that we have learned from
mm,
that perhaps I haven't paid enough attention to just yet. You know,
mm.
people have had these experiences. They've tried stuff, and I don't want to keep retreading old paths or beating dead horses.
Yeah. So uncovering these family patterns, Nani, and also the social justice patterns and internalized oppression patterns in yourself and in your parenting. How was that for you?
Um, well, that's a big question, isn't it?
Mhm,
That's a
mhm.
broad one.
Yeah.
Um, I think I think it's been very healing for me in terms of, you know, being able to look at myself as having been a child and having
Mm,
been my mother's child and kind of understanding, you know, the forces that influenced the ways that they approached me that maybe didn't super duper work. You know, I'm able to see it as they were just doing the best they could at the time and
mm,
there were forces acting on them that restrained their choices or what they felt were their choices.
mhm.
And yeah, it's nice to be able to see that you know things that have always been this way or is just how you do it or whatever don't really have to be, and they all come from somewhere. They
Mm,
come from ideas, and ideas can change over time.
yeah. And with that awareness, Nani, when you know the patterns, where they came from, does that show up in your daily parenting with Remy?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I'm still struggling with it for sure. I think something that I got a lot of as a
Mm,
child, I was going to say small child, but I think it was more of an ongoing thing than that, was like, shh, don't embarrass me. Don't be too much, you know. And
okay. Mhm.
with Remy's bigness, I do still kind of find myself having to choose my moments when that's the appropriate thing to say, like,
Mm,
let's think of others and our impact on this group versus, you know, be your whole self, don't let me stifle you kind of a thing. So
wow. It's
I
such a
don't know that it,
lifelong work, right? To
yeah,
negotiate when to repeat the patterns and when to do it differently.
yeah, for sure. So I'm still, you know, still towing that path. I don't feel like I've really hit perfection or resolution on anything, but I think that you've done a really great job of stressing that, you know, that's the work. There is no perfection. We don't ever
Mm,
really arrive. So
yeah.
yeah, just trying to keep applying, you know, and coming from a values and compassion based place
Mm,
as I wing it.
as you're winging it, right?
Yeah.
Meaning keep practicing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm. So that's in out and through, Nani. Can you speak a little bit about the journal that we're writing together?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, first of all, it's beautiful. Well done on the production on that. It's
Thank
gorgeous
you.
design.
Thank
Yeah, it's
you.
really feels like
Mm.
a high-end product. I'm
Thank you.
not surprised again with your artistic abilities. Of course, it looks
Oh, you're
amazing.
so
But
kind.
I think, uh, yeah, the part that really struck me was, how much of the early part is focused on interviewing our caregivers and learning more about what their experience was like.
Mm.
That one really, reading through those questions and like picturing having that talk with my mom
Mm.
was kind of emotional for me. So I feel like there's an accountability piece there where I do tend to avoid some of those like more vulnerable and deeply connected moments sometimes. I think my family, I don't know if waspy is the right term, but we don't really, I like that they're not super in your face kind of parents. I've had partners who have parents who very freely, sort of take them down a peg or say, what are you thinking? Or, that kind of thing. And my family really tries to be respectful and they kind of treat everybody like, oh no, well, she knows what she's doing. She gets to make her own choices.
Mm.
And that's great. But we don't really go back at conflict. We don't go over stuff. We just take what we can and move on and keep going. So
Mm.
I feel like, yeah, it's going to be a challenge for me to tackle that part, but it's what's been missing.
Wow. Yeah. And that's my family too, Nani. We don't talk about
Yeah.
the inner landscape of feelings and hopes and
Mhm.
emotions. We're just like, did you do well in school? Did you get a good grade? Okay, then go get a good job. And that's it.
Just do what you're supposed to do.
Right. And that's where the journal was born, that I was missing that piece. And I feel like I had to work so hard to get that story and information out of my parents and just to know who I am and where I came from.
Right. To see them as people instead of just parental units. Mhm.
Exactly, exactly, Nani. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thank you for exploring the journal together.
Yeah. Thank you for making it. I'm sure it was a lot of work.
It was very joyful, very joyful. Yeah. And how else have your parenting changed because of what you've learned in the program?
I think it's really helped me to solidify my goals of staying very, values based
Mm.
and staying more focused on that kind of emotional landscape and sort of the whys behind behavior, what need is prompting a behavior pattern rather than trying to deal with things on just the surface functional level of like, well, we have to stop this tantrum from happening.
Got it.
I think it's really encouraged me to just be in the moment with each need as it arises. And yeah, I think so much of our time gets spent managing our children, and trying to get them to fit a mold or, just get through the day even. Like it's so hard when they want to melt down and you're burning dinner on the stove and you just can't right then. But I think it's been a really good reminder that, each of those pieces interlocks and
Mm.
each little thing we do is, I guess, building the next phase that we're going to face. So just trying to really stay present and stay personal and connected.
Wow. Wow, that's lands in my heart, Nani.
Oh.
Yeah. 'Cause they're so hard, right? As you said, when there's dinner on the stove that's burning, and then
Mhm.
our child's burning needs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's a struggle and I'm not going to claim to be winning it it's I definitely still have my moments of like, oh God, I shouted again.
I mean, absolutely, right? As long
But
as you
I
keep
feel like that's something
moving.
you covered as well, that there is space for us to be human, and in those moments, space
Mhm.
for us to demonstrate accountability and growth and to reconnect.
I love when you kind of echo back what we discussed in the 6 weeks. And oh, I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I feel like you really you have such a precise way with the vocabulary that you chose for the course, and there were so many moments of it being like, that's the word I was looking for, that
Oh,
yeah, a lot of the things that you said really brought home some more amorphous concepts I was trying to crystallize. So
wow.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'm just going to keep borrowing your words because you said it perfectly.
Oh, yes, please. And please feel free to make them yours, right? That's my whole goal is for you to make it your own. Okay. So what else did you like about the program?
Oh my goodness. Well, I really liked the people. I'm someone who has a great deal of social anxiety. I'm not really a joiner. I'd much rather kind of hang back and
Yeah.
observe, and then quietly see if I can pull it off on my own later when no one's looking. So
Oh,
yeah, that was a hurdle for me in joining a group program. But
yeah.
right off the bat, being able to see other parents, with kids at different stages and talking about
Mm,
all of our experiences that were somehow so unifying, um, that really brought a lot of value. And the people that you brought together, I feel like you have a gift also for finding folks.
thank
I
you.
actually was just chatting with Sarah via Instagram yesterday, and we were
Love
talking about
that.
our interviews and all of that
Oh
stuff.
my
So
gosh.
checked in about our kiddos.
Mm.
Yeah, it just ended up being a really wonderful community and like just the thing I didn't know I needed.
So happy, and it breaks my heart at the same time that the myth of individualism, where, as you said, Nani, that we have to do this parenting thing all by ourselves and kind of perfect it in secret in our own
Right.
home and then go out and present to be this perfect parent where we can do this together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it was really rewarding to be able to be vulnerable with that group and then to share other people's moments of vulnerability
Yes.
and their triumphs,
Yeah.
and realize that we are all of us this whole spectrum of process,
Mm,
you know.
mhm. Yeah, because I decided to really do this group cohort style to address that individualism and sense of isolation that we're feeling and going
Yes.
through.
Especially for stay-at-home parents, especially during COVID and all of this
Right.
stuff. I think the isolation has really, even going from the standard American nuclear family model has just multiplied in the last few
Mhm.
years. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And I have to admit too that it's quite a big ask of your
Mm.
commitment and your time. So can you speak to that a little bit, Nani?
Um, well, I think I was very lucky in that I have a partner who works from home, and so we were
Mm,
able to work that out. He's also a fantastic cook, so he ends up handling dinner at least half the week anyway.
okay.
So I had a support system in place that made that easier, especially with the time difference since we were starting at
Right.
4:30 my time and finishing at 6:30. It was
Mm,
actually in a way that maybe isn't of value to your interview, but for me personally, it was kind of nice to get a break from family dinners for a little while,
mm,
just because we are all together on Wednesday evenings. We have the 10-year-old home on Wednesdays, and that couple of hours right there can just be like the highest noise time in the house. And yeah, I get a little bit of sensory overwhelm sometimes. So
right.
And that's not the only reason I was happy to dedicate the time, but
It was your time, right? It was, yep.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's not, it's not always easy, and it's not always without the parental guilt of taking time for
Of
yourself. But
course. Of course.
because we were doing so much work together, and we were
Mhm.
doing that work for the kids and for the culture and for the next generation, it was yeah, it was well worth it.
Perfect. Oh, thank you, Nani. Okay. Can you help me finish this sentence? I almost didn't join the program because.
I almost didn't join the program because I guess of, fear of exposing my own imperfections. Yeah, I feel like my children have such strong personalities, and we're sort of all of us black sheep, which I think,
Mm,
they get from me, and I can relate to that experience. But I have, I mean, since my oldest really felt kind of on the fringes
mm,
of mainstream parenting, and just so much of what you read in the books that seems to work for everybody else and be the general, here's how to do it philosophy, I've just tried and failed at. So, I was definitely nervous to show up in a cohort of other parents where I spent so much of my time kind of feeling like, you know,
right. Like you
yeah.
failed other people's methods that worked for
Mhm.
their kids, but not yours.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was my hope was, well, here's a group of very progressive thinking people,
Mm,
people who are looking to do things differently. And so maybe that will work. Maybe I can make this work. But yeah, I think, uh, and to go maybe a little bit more personal with it too, there is a lot of stuff, less family of origin stuff, although there is some of that, but there's a lot of stuff from my past relationship
mm,
that in terms of surviving, I just cannot afford to sit with most of the time. And I really, really haven't.
yeah.
So I think for me, getting into any kind of a group that involves doing some of that shadow work and
Mhm.
prying into dark corners was very, very intimidating.
Mm,
But I will say, I having gotten a taste for it in such a welcoming environment, I've actually hauled off and signed up for therapy now. So I have my first appointment on the 29th, and I am, I'm nervous about the fit because I have Medicaid. And so it can be really hard to be very choosy about providers. And I think that's a big part of what's kept me from looking for so long. And I don't know how to say to a clinic, like, do you have any angry anti-capitalists that I can talk to?
ah,
But yeah, having started to break through some of those walls that did scare me off in the beginning, I feel like I'm ready to keep going. I wish it could just be you,
oh,
but
Nani. Oh,
but yeah, that was the start that I needed. I think
yes.
a lot more
And
healing to come.
one thing that I really appreciate about you, because I know that you have to fight a lot of imposter syndrome and social anxiety to even participate in a group that's loving and welcoming, but it takes a lot of work, didn't it?
Yeah.
And you move at your own pace. And we
Oh, I'm
talk,
stubborn that way. Yeah.
yes,
No,
and I love
whoops.
that.
I can freeze and you will not drag me.
And I love that because it's not about kind of overriding our survival mechanisms, but moving at our own pace.
Mhm.
And even though these 6 weeks are just planting those seeds, it's your seeds to nurture when it
Yeah.
ends, right? Thank you for the work and for sharing about your beginning journey of therapy.
Yeah, well, thank you for planting those seeds with that special touch of yours. I just feel like you really do have a gift of meeting all of us where we are and holding us and
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it did. It germinated something and it's enabled me to keep going in that spirit.
Thank you, Nani. And I'm growing and learning and doing this work with you. Such a daily, lifelong, lineage long practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved your concept of healing, 7 generations back as well as
Mm.
forward. That's I've always loved that idea of considering big decisions in terms of 7 generations ahead and
Mm.
our potential impact. But I never thought about it in reverse, and that we
Right.
can be the ones to do that work and
Mm.
how much impact that can have, on relationships that we no longer have, people we no longer have, we can still heal with, or salvage the time that we have with people who may not be here for very long.
That's right.
And yeah, and just shaping the narrative for our kids and what they're going to take away from their family experience. So that one was impactful for me.
Oh, and that's the decolonized family healing work, right,
Yeah.
Nani? That it's not about healing your depression and anxiety and PTSD, but it's broader than that, and it's
Mhm.
intergenerational. And I'm lucky to do this decolonized mental health work where I can like we can glean from the indigenous practice and Chinese medicine practice and other
Yeah.
modalities and technologies our ancestors used. Hmm.
There's so much value in that. And I think it's something that doesn't get introduced to a lot of us as we are trying to do our own healing work that is so individualized, but the depression and the anxiety and the PTSD, they all stem from that lineage and how everybody ahead of us has dealt with their struggles and the coping mechanisms we've picked up from them along the way. So really being able to zoom out, and see that through that much longer lens, I think
Yeah.
does really help.
Yes. And Nani, we do a lot of zooming in and zooming out, right? Zooming in to see what's in that inheritance package and what you
Mhm.
want to continue and carry forward and what you don't want anymore. And
Yeah.
then zoom out and see the systemic oppression and patriarchy and all of that. So we do this intergenerational family healing work and internalized oppression work kind of simultaneously. How was
Yeah,
it for you
it's
to do
true.
both?
I think it's super enlightening, especially, when we're talking about healing relationships with ancestors. It's super enlightening to be able to not necessarily, values they held and choices that they made in their time.
Mm,
We can contextualize and make it not necessarily just about who they were and acting like they were swinging that sword all alone or something, but we can
right.
we can put them in space and time and understand more why these things were the way they were, and that we can move forward with the values that are helpful that we got from them without having to reject them wholesale because of things they did in their time,
Right.
or remain apologists for the way they did things in their time, which I feel like is
Mm,
something our culture is having a moment with right now.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We can understand them in their context.
Yeah.
Right.
Big picture.
Big picture.
Mhm.
Well, Nani, I have one to two more.
Sure.
What kind of parents would you recommend this program to and why?
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, there's a couple ways to come at that. Um, I think that it's a great program for people who already consider themselves progressive, and
Mm,
are looking for support from people with shared values for sure. But the less respectful part of me would like to tie down a great chunk of America and force them to go through this course because I think,
Oh,
fortunately, the people who probably need it the most are the ones who would,
mm,
discount the value and not do the work. So
yeah.
that's not a very helpful answer, but honestly, I think there's really
Honest
value
one,
for
and I love that.
there's value for anyone at any phase of their journey, I think, in
Mm,
this course.
right. And we our work is hard, right, Nani? I think,
Mhm.
because we're talking about a package of unresolved issues. So
Yeah,
what
it's all the deepest stuff.
I'm sorry, but not sorry. I love this work. But what got you through the whole 6 weeks? Mhm.
Oh boy. Again, I think it was being able to be there for each other. It was that community aspect, when somebody
Mm,
else would share something vulnerable from their upbringing or something that they were struggling with.
mm,
Just that, I'm not someone who grew up with church and
mm,
having a shared emotional experience is such a powerful thing in the right context where it's not, about guilt and shame and brainwashing and what have you. But being able to just feel that sense of being in a village, I think, and kind of holding hands as we take our baby steps together.
yeah.
That was sort of the big thing.
Mm. And that leads us to our final question, Nani. Well, if there's one thing you'd like to share or say to a parent who might be watching this video who might share a similar journey that you're going through, what would you say?
I mean, I would say definitely do it, take the time, put in the time.
Mm,
I love how we had various little ones and four-leggers popping up in class, and there's room and space for that. So as hard as it can be to go deep and concentrate in the midst of childcare, you guys proved
mm,
it is possible.
mm,
Um, yeah, it's hard to verbalize like the sense of support that I've come away with, being again, I don't know why decolonization is such a radical concept still at this moment in time, but a lot of people have a deep misunderstanding of what that means, and they think it means being ashamed of everything that we've done so far and having to chuck all of our history and all of that. And I really feel like it's yeah, it's so important to integrate. It's so
mhm,
important to integrate the history and the values and where we want to go from here. So, yeah, if anybody was on the fence about joining, it's just there's so much value in it, on those like higher meta levels and
mm,
on the zoomed in level of just having other parents to go through this with. But for me, and I live in a very I live in a place that really thinks it's super progressive. We think we're just the leftiest of the left over here,
mm,
and even so, it can still be really isolating. Anti-capitalist is a divisive term, so
mm,
if that is something that you're feeling and something that you're exploring, just having a chance to do that in a cohort of other parents who are really trying to ground their parenting in those values, like that's not something I've really come across. Even in Olympia, Washington, I've not come across a whole group of people who want to do this work together and meet on a weekly
mm,
basis. Such a long
mm.
answer.
Oh, and I appreciate every word. Nani, you're a legacy maker, a cycle breaker, and I'm honored to be doing this work with you. And thank you so, so much for sharing your experience with everyone.
Well, thank you, Nat, for creating this foundation and the space and holding all of us with all of our needs.
Mm.
And I have to imagine, that probably takes a lot. I feel like you give a lot. And so
Oh,
thank you for that. I would like to say, never stop, but also you deserve rest, and you please take care of you, because we do,
mm,
again, hopefully not in an extractive, exploitative way.
not at all. I I get so much out of the group and our time together too. And I love that mutuality. So thank you, Nani. Thank you, thank you,
There you
thank
did it
you.
again. That's the word. I was looking for that word.
Oh, thank you again, Nani.